Marky Worthington Podcast all day.
All day.
Dream by night.
Don't buy me a drink. Just give me $10.
All day.
Go down to the strip club with your floppy disk and turn it into a hard drive.
Yeah, right. You'll get fucking thrown out by Big Tony.
We're here to name names and make people feel more ashamed for shit that they're not proud of.
Don't blow it. Keep it simple. Count your money.
No, whatever it is.
Hey, welcome to the Marky Worthington Comedy Podcast. This is episode 90 with Nathan Hillman. How you doing, man?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Good to have you on the show, man. It's getting up there in the numbers, 90. I remember I started this in 2017 and my first guest ever was the local legend, Bill Macon. Wow. Do you remember Bill Macon?
No, I don't.
Yeah, so for a bit of background on Nathan, for people that might not know, you've recently returned to the scene, but you had started in the comedy scene. You're a local comedian. When did you first start in the Canberra comedy scene?
I started my first open mic. I got up at the Pot Belly in 2012. So it was around August or July 2012, and I, that was about the very beginning. I was doing, I did a bunch of open mics, and I ended up. I did a couple of those competitions. I did
like
Tilly's
Raw?
for Raw. I did Raw,
and
I smashed it at Raw. So that was about probably 8 months in.
Yeah, and
I didn't win, but a lot of people sort of saw it, and that's when I started getting opportunities to open for touring comics, and then I was able to open for the Canberra Comedy Festival for Daniel Connell, who's a big name now. So that was back in 2013. On that,
What was the Tilly? Because I've heard stories of Tilly's and the stage and how cool it was. What was it like?
It was insane. Like it was the biggest crowd. It was absolutely packed. I think there were tables and chairs, but it just felt like everyone was also standing. Yeah. And there was like the bar at the side, and then there was another one at the back. And everyone could sit around the outside as well. A lot of people were sitting on the outside because it was so full you couldn't get in.
Yeah,
it was huge.
The one of the waves of comedy. I feel like every few years it comes and goes. Like there's obviously the main waves of comedy, like from the 80s. It died off a bit in the early 90s, but then it sort of came back for over the years.
Yeah.
And I think for just judging by what I've heard in the past for the Australian scene, it usually feeds off the American scene. And currently in the States, there's a bit of a wave, so that could mean good things to come for us as well.
I mean, like we didn't. I think the first. I think in 2012 was the first. Was the first Canberra Comedy Festival. We didn't have one before that. It was always just Melbourne and Sydney. So since then, comedy's definitely been a lot better in Canberra because it's got. But they were the ACT Comedy ACT. Sorry, that group was running a lot of comics in and out of Canberra during those days as well. But I remember back in the 90s when I went and saw like Gary Eck. He used to come to ICBMs and stuff. Like they used to do a stand up at ICBMs. That was sick. Just seeing like
a couple of Canberra listeners right now fucking having some nostalgia trips.
Exactly. The ex Private Bin. It was so cool to see.
Which now has comedy back at it again. Every now and again.
Which one is that?
So it's Verity Lane upstairs.
Oh, Verity Lane, right?
Yeah,
okay,
so that's it's come full circle.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. But I remember seeing Gary Eck was just insane. I'd never really heard of him before, but that was back in the 90s as well. So that's cool as.
Yeah, that's good shit. Like I seen there's a Canberra comedian, a Sydney comedian that I've worked with, a 30-year comedian called Darren Sanders.
Right.
He was on the Footy Show. He was like part of that Carl Barron, Ukmal sort of wave.
Right.
And he uploaded, I'll see if I can pull it up in a minute, but it's the lineup from an open mic that he was on from like the early or mid 90s.
Yeah.
And it's like if that was a lineup now, it'd be like Melbourne Comedy Festival sort of thing. I'll tell you something interesting though. I tend to find that a lot of those like bigger comedians don't tend to do the festivals. They tend to do their own shows, still in Melbourne and Sydney, but just like under their own sort of banner.
Yeah.
So I feel like some of those guys probably wouldn't be necessarily in the festivals.
No, I mean, I know when we went and saw Tommy Dean a couple of months ago, he said he doesn't do festivals.
Yeah.
I mean, he's obviously been a comic for like 30 to 35 years, but yeah, he's sort of over festivals, and he says they're a waste of time and money and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure for him that might be the case. I'm guessing for us, younger comedians, it's still an opportunity to be seen and, and get those kind of, get the credits and get the reviews and all the things that you want to do.
Yeah, and also get the experience. Like, I don't know whether the festivals have as much to offer to the, 30-year comedians that they would to under 10-year comedians.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll see if I can pull this up anyway. But yeah, I've also, just in my 5 years of comedy, every now and then I'll run into, a comedian that's been doing it for a while. And one thing I heard when I was at a gig out of town is one of the bigger, the longer serving comedians, I said, do you ever do the festivals? And they said, no, I actually enjoy making money.
Yeah.
It's just a funny response.
Yeah, yeah.
It's there's a story behind that and I don't want to fucking dig into it. But also, I worked with a comedian once that does cruise ships, mostly cruise ships. And I know, I had Mick Meredith here in Canberra.
Oh, yeah.
And he was doing a bit about doing comedy on a cruise ship.
Yeah.
And he just goes, I was on a cruise ship the other day doing comedy because my career is over. And it just made me laugh. So, the crowd laughed, but it hit different with the comedians too, because it's nearly that's where you feel like some comedians go to pasture.
Yeah.
And Bill Burr talks about it on his podcast. He's just I'll be fucked if I'm going out into the fucking water with all the sharks.
Yeah, I always feel like it'd be fun to do a cruise ship, I've been on a few cruises and seen the comedians that get up, and I mean, I guess the last cruise I went, everyone was 60 to 70 years old except for me and my wife. It was very weird. We were the young, spry ones walking and stuff. Look at us just striding without passing out. It was really cool. But yeah, the comic who got up.
How dare you do that?
Exactly. Was overtaking
just
people all the
shaming
time.
them.
Yeah. Sorry, all you people on the cruise ship. But yeah, the comic who got up, I'd never really heard of them before, and and it was just 100% clean comedy, and it was okay, sort of thing. I was oh, okay, this guy's okay. I didn't laugh once or anything like that.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was what it was. This is comedy. He's doing jokes.
Yeah. You ticked the box.
Yeah, that's right. I gave him a few nods.
Do you know what I think that could be the result of? That's someone who does normally have dirty stuff, but cut it all out, but didn't fill it up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's a bit like when you go to a restaurant and they're here's our vegetarian meals, and it's just the other meals with the protein taken out.
It was a steakhouse, and it was just 3 pieces of broccoli. Enjoy your and broccoli.
Enjoy your
yum.
and the punchline of my jokes.
Enjoy your and punchline. Yeah.
We'll set up with no punch. Hey, here it is. So this is from what I understand, around, let me just see if I can pull up the stats on here. I was talking about old lineups before. I like to do the back announce on radio. People don't listen to a section of the podcast.
Right.
We've got Nathan Hillman here. We're just discussing an old lineup that was posted by a colleague, Darren Sanders. Check this line out, up from the mid-90s. There's a couple in there I don't recognise, but that was just an open mic.
Carl Barron, I can see. Kitty Flanagan, Darren Sanders, Greg Fleet.
What a cool lineup, eh?
What? These are just at North Bondi RSL at 7 p.m.
5-minute sets.
Sunday the 29th at North Bondi RSL. Just all doing 5. Jackie Loeb. Wow. Oh, and they had 3 different MCs as well.
Yeah, so imagine MCs dropping out throughout the night.
Yeah, it's just They just this tag team. All right, time for the next. And Tommy Dean was the MC on the second half.
Yeah, so I'll post that picture here for
that's
the
cool.
the video watchers.
I just feel bad because I don't know all the names. I'm like, I only know like.
It's
6.
sad when you're just sitting there like, well, 4 of these didn't make it. You know,
Maybe they did. Though. That's the worst
That's the
bit. It's
problem,
like, people are like, "Hey, you didn't even mention me." I'm like.
yes, it's like I have 160,000 Twitter followers, but yeah, sure, I didn't make it with your fucking
right.
12 Twitter followers.
Yeah, that's right.
I think I'm trying to be more active on Twitter because I don't really use it in Australia.
Yeah.
Actually, when Doug Stanhope came to Australia, not recently, but in 2018 or 17, he said that he got a request to do an interview with Dave Hughes.
Yeah.
And he was like, who the fuck is that? And then he looked it up. And he's like, I assumed he was popular because he had Twitter followers in a country that doesn't use Twitter.
Yeah.
He's like, that was his benchmark. He's like, that must be why he's popular. So yeah, that was interesting. Like to like arguably one of Australia's biggest known comedians.
Yeah.
And it's just like, who the fuck is that guy? You know,
Yeah.
but I guess that's just the luxury of him being in the States and being in the States in the time that he was.
It's like there's like react videos right now to people watching John Farnham sing and go, "Wow, that guy can really sing," and you're like, "Yeah, we know." Like,
Yeah.
How do you not know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's kind of like that, I guess. You know, if you're not big outside of Australia.
Yeah, they think we just still have AC/DC as our only choice.
That's right.
Yeah, so comedy over the years. So I started in 2017. There was a couple of crossover people from the early time, like earlier when you started versus when I started, but I think it boiled down to only about a handful of people that were still in the scene.
Yeah, I think a bunch of them are running it now too. So
Yeah.
like when I started, Chris Ryan, and so Chris Ryan went to Sydney obviously now, and she was at the Canberra Comedy Festival. She was on ABC iView, which was super exciting. So she was
The
running a
project,
bunch
I
of it.
believe. Maybe she's on the project for something. I don't know.
She was on the Melbourne Comedy Festival.
Yeah, I've seen her on a few shows. Yeah.
And Dave Graham was running the rooms.
Yeah.
And now he runs the Comedy ACT group as well with Tim Duck.
Yeah.
And Tim Duck was obviously there doing sound and
Yeah.
and organizing and funding and stuff like that. So so some of them are still in Canberra running it, and some of them have gone other places. There was and Emo Parsonson and Gibbo and stuff. They were I think they were kind of veterans by then. They were sort of coming in and doing some stuff, like doing a 7 or doing a 10 as part of a showcase.
Yeah.
And they'd been doing it for quite a while, even when I started. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome, man. I like to hear the history of the backstory. Actually, I had a colleague that was he was a fan of comedy, but he'd never sort of done comedy from those days.
Yeah.
And he said he remembers seeing Dave Graham's early bit with a storybook where he'd go up on stage with a full fucking picture book.
Yeah.
He was there for his first ever time he ever went on stage. But then there's guys like Tim that you said that have always just been behind the scenes sort of thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're still they're still there. They do the comedy. Oh, the Stevenson brothers as well. The Stevenson twins. They were. I mean, they obviously weren't as big as they are now.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were around as well. They were doing open mics and trying new stuff. And their special that they have on ABC iView, or at least it was, or maybe it's on YouTube now. I was there when they were honing a bunch of their songs and stuff. So that was super exciting. We saw their specials and stuff as well.
Yeah,
so,
that is cool, man. Yeah, I feel like they were kind of a bit of a Canberra legend for a little while there, just the both, because there was also that podcast as well, One Beer and One Shot or whatever it was. Yeah, so they used to do apparently a live podcast at the Civic Pub upstairs.
Yeah, okay.
I think Greg Kimball was on that as well.
Yeah, Greg Kimball,
And yeah, when I first started, I don't know why I just said "R" like a pirate. If people listening back to the audio would have heard me just go like, I don't know why "R." So they, when I first started, was when they sort of were just wrapping that up. So I wasn't sort of here for that, but that's just what I heard. Was something they did. And I had Greg on the show early. I think it was within the first 10 episodes. I had Greg Kimball on, and it was just after he did his first special.
Right.
First and last to date.
Because he keeps coming in and coming back. Like I've been following the Canberra scene ever since, I started, but like every once in a while I'll go and see a show or whatever, and Greg will be there, or he'll be like, and he'll be like, oh yeah, I was away for 2+ years or whatever, and then I'm back and stuff like that. So so he hasn't come back since.
Not since, He I remember one of the first ever basement open mics. We did the podcast, him and I, before the gig. So it was in the back room. Him and I were just chilling there, did the podcast, and then I ran the gig.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll put you up last, like as sort of like the headliner.
Yeah.
I guess. Fucking yeah. And this dude was here from Scotland who had done a bit of comedy, is what he told me. And he gets up and fucking crushes for the whole 5 minutes. He's like, I'm just visiting from out of town. I nearly attempted to do an accent, but I was just like, nah, I'll abandon that idea. He got on there and crushed, and I was like, oh fuck, here we go. Like, good luck with Greg following the crusher with the accent. Because everyone hears that accent instantly. I think if you've got an accent, you have a bit of an advantage off the cuff. Yeah, you do. So Greg gets up after it, and the first thing he says is like, so who reckons that he should have been the closer? And it broke the ice, and he still did really good. Like, it was just like he just addressed it from the get-go. Which just goes to show, like, you can't learn that shit without experience. Yeah. Like that.
I reckon, like, he was like he'd been doing it for ages, and he didn't want to say he'd been doing it. He's just, I'm just out of town. I thought I'd just give it a little bit of a go.
I think
with my hottest 6 minutes I can drop. Like,
well, I feel like if I was going to go somewhere else and drop in and do a mic, I would try and fucking leave the place on fire. Like, I would not go in.
You wouldn't go try new shit in Brisbane or whatever. You'd just smash it with you.
Yeah, well, then how is someone going to talk about me on a podcast fucking 5 years later? Yeah. So I had a few of the early ones. I had Kai, I think, episode 3 or something. He's been on a few times since. He's one of the staples on the show. We I have him on at least once a year. We do like a recap and that sort of stuff. So that's good. It's good to have a few of the regulars and comedians have been doing it for a while over the years. This is episode 90. We've got Nathan Hillman here. And because it is episode 90, and it's, if you're listening to this on the day of release, it is the 5th of June. And just for context, you might think 5th of June, not that important. Well, let me tell you something. On this day in 1990, the 5th of June, a Florida man hit a woman with a cup and tried to get her out of the car, police said.
With a cup?
Yeah, with a cup.
Right.
I will go on. Please don't. No, I will go on. This is the next part of it. It was, in fact, they later described the cup. It wasn't just any old cup. It was... Let me pull this up. Before this, I copied it into a Word doc, and I'm like, this will be smart. I can read it better. And then I'm like, oh, wait, it has no formatting, and I have dyslexia. So at the moment, my mind is playing Pac-Man with all the gaps between the words. And I'm like, man, that's a difficult maze of Pac-Man. It was a protein shaker. It was a protein shaker. We're slowly putting it together. Mm-hmm. It was a glass protein shaker. Oh. And this man is 40 years old. And I have his protein shaker fucking face ready to show everybody.
Protein shaker face.
There we go.
Oh, there he is.
The man responsible, Mr. Florida Man.
He tried to get her out of the car, and he just threw it. That is.
So there we go, Mr. Florida Man at 7-Eleven.
Yeah. During a word and finger argument. I like that. That's good.
That is.
I think that should be part of everyone's vocabulary. I'm gonna have an argument. Is it gonna be a word or a finger or both word and finger?
Yeah. Can you start with the fingers and work into the
Yeah,
argument?
you just walk in shaking, and the fingers doing all the work, and then you go. You know what? Like you just start with it. You just lead with
a word and finger argument. It's a weird thing. That brings a whole new meaning to like the Wiggles have a dispute.
That's right.
You just say,
you know what? I've already said a lot, but now
I'm gonna mash your potatoes, fucker. Don't make me mash your potatoes. I'll run you over in the big red car. You wait till I get Dorothy the dinosaur to chew your fucking face.
Yeah.
All right, so that's our Florida Man, but. In lighter news.
Okay.
On this day, well, not this day, but let's look at June of 1990 as a general, because the 5th of June wasn't very fruitful, as we've seen from the one Florida Man that I was able to find, which, to be fair...
Did you just go, I want to look up 90s Florida Man in June?
Yep.
That was the first thing you thought.
Well, no, I specifically got the 5th of June because there's a lot of shit happened in June of 1990. I had to narrow it down to a day.
Having a word, finger, and foot argument or something.
If you're listening to this episode, as we said before, on the day of release, it is Mark Wahlberg's birthday. He is 51 years old. It is...
He's 51 in the 90s. In the 90s.
No, today.
Oh, okay. That's right. I'm like, God damn.
Jesus Christ.
He is just...
See, you get your
pickled.
own... You get your own personal chef and fucking... So we got... Yeah, Marky Mark's and the Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. You might remember him from The Departed and Boogie Nights. Yeah. Born in Boston, Massachusetts.
That makes sense. He's got that accent.
Is at in the same place as previously mentioned, our friend and colleague Bill Burr. We also have now here's a name you might not recognise, Kathleen Kennedy, 69 years old today, but you may recognise her from her role as an American film producer who worked on E.T.
Right. Okay. There you go.
Jurassic Park, as well, and she was born in 1953 in Berkeley, California.
Right.
There we go. So on this day,
happy birthday, Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah, there we go. Thanks for ET. Because I only know ET from like rewatching it. But
yeah, I remember the pre-walkie-talkie version.
Yeah. So what was? Did you watch ET as a kid?
Cinema? Yeah.
You watch it in the cinema?
It might have been a re-release because but I definitely watched ET. Man, it was I think when I watched it in the cinema, I was just so little. I was just like, wow, that thing's really cute and it's running through the forest, and then blah blah blah. And I watched it again maybe 8 years ago and went, man, that guy got really drunk, and then the kid gets really. I'm like, this is a bit problematic. Why is this child getting mad drunk in the middle of class? Like, it was insane.
You're like, oh, this is a bit fucking weird for a kid's show, right?
That's right. It was. It was a bit. Kids getting drunk. It's the 80s, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, what are they going to do? What are they going to do to unwind after their factory job?
Yeah, that's right. You got the black lung already. Just smash some.
Yeah, dude. It's before vapes. They didn't have popcorn lung. They had fucking black lung and asbestosis.
Yeah, asbestosis. Yeah,
and fucking asthma.
And
yeah, there we go. There's a sample from the bit. You want to see the rest of that live? Go to the basement tomorrow night on the 6th of June. Yeah, there we go. Nice. Yeah, hey, quick little plug there. But also 2nd of June, so within the same month of June, number one hit song is?
Please be like 1990.
I've
Britney?
got two from that month, which I wanted to talk about.
Is Britney in one of them?
Britney's not.
Oh.
However, you may
Spices?
remember the band Heart.
Oh, Heart with...
What song do you think?
Oh, is it... Oh. Oh, I've forgotten. Nah, just tell me. It's fine.
Okay, this is the song name and not a
Yeah.
comment.
Okay.
All I want to do
All I
is
want to
make,
do is make love to you.
No, wait, let me finish.
Oh, sorry. Away he goes.
No, see, you're such a selfish lover. You never let me finish.
That's right.
Jesus just cried. But the other hit from June 9th.
All I want to do is make. I remember it's the worst.
By Heart.
Whenever we were in the socials and
Yeah.
they'd play that song, we'd all yell "Get AIDS" really loud instead of "Make Love," because back then AIDS was so popular, right? And we go, "All I want to do is get AIDS." Because we're 30.
It was popular
We're
then.
13,
People
so-
were fucking dying to get it.
Yeah, they were.
And
There were bowling ads about it and stuff. I don't know.
when you get a strike at the alley,
Yeah, it
they're
was
just
like-
the,
yeah,
the,
that's
the
right.
kingpin
It just-
gives the other
it
ones
just- it
AIDS
just
and they
goes up
all
and
fall
just
over.
touches people with AIDS and they'll start getting lesions and falling over. Yeah, that was back at AMF. Big shout out to AMF.
Still there.
Yeah. Now it's Zone.
Yeah, I had friends actually that worked at Macca's back in like the early 2000s that have told me that they literally, their job was also to deliver food to Zone.
Yeah, I remember they
had the
started
door
doing
open.
that.
Yeah.
Because we used to just shuffle down in our bowling shoes down into the Macca's. They had a adjoining door and you could just walk down into Macca's, get the food and come back up.
Yeah.
And then you'd have sticky ass shoes and you'd just slip over and
Yeah.
or you'd stick and then you'd just fall onto your face because you'd gone out and you'd gone out and bought the Macca's. So yeah, that's
Good
cool that they
times.
delivered it.
Have you always been a Canberra boy?
Oh, I'm originally from the Blue Mountains and I moved when I was 9. So yeah, pretty much.
Pretty
Like,
much. all the early childhood memories would be here. Did you
Yeah.
like? I know another big thing was the ice skating rink. Did you ever have friends that did that or do it yourself?
I did it. I did it a bunch. We had it. You know how like you have activities day or something. We had. So for activities day at the end of activities week, at the end of the year, we did bowling. I did bowling and ice skating, but I didn't actually know anyone in the ice skating rink. So I just sort of put my skates on for 5 days. I remember 5 days. I just put my skates on and then just skate slowly to, like Barracuda and all the other songs that were being played. I'd just be skating around this ice skating rink for like, it's half a day. It's a really long time just skating. Just by yourself,
talking
just
to
you
anyone.
and your thoughts, and all of the 90s hits blasting at 1994. Yeah, that was a good time. Yeah. So I did that. It was so cold, and it's so sad it's gone because the ice hockey like started really picking up and stuff, and now
It's still there. It's just
it's when I say it's gone, I mean you can't actually like use it, or you can now. Can
it
you?
is a thing. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. It's just not like its former glory.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was reopened because it was closed for
It is literally
yonks.
exactly what it would have been back then.
Yeah.
but just not renovated much. Since
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
It's still like, it still definitely has value, like to the scene. Like it's cool that people can still skate and they still do games and shit there. But yeah, it's definitely not like you mentioned before. Like, have you seen Stranger Things?
Yes.
With the roller skating rink.
Yeah.
that they.
Yeah, I've been to one of them too.
I can picture that vibe, but just.
What, just
Ice.
incessant bullying, just people being jerks and filming it and getting their faces smashed with roller skates, but with ice.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like when I was, it's probably the same. But when you go to the ice skating rink, there's always those people on the speed skates who just speed skate everywhere, zhup. And then there's the people who are wearing the normal skates, but they're like figure skaters, so they're just like, and you're like. I could go on one leg for like a little bit. I don't know. I'm just so terrified of pain.
Yeah.
I'm so terrified of falling down.
Yeah.
So I just so it takes like an hour or something to get enough courage to go like, 5 kilometers an hour on the ice or something. Otherwise I'm just like,
Yeah, that's me. Like
Yeah.
I used to skate more regularly. I don't do it as much.
You're the speed skating guy.
I was like
I'm
I'm into ice hockey.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
I was trying to get good at skating so I could play in a team. I played in a team for a little while.
Yeah, wow.
But it's something that you really do need to just fucking stick with if you want to be good at.
Yeah.
I just didn't have the time or devotion to stick with it as much as... And I will go back.
Yeah?
I just need to make sure that I've got the time to give it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to go into it with,
with split.
Yeah.
Split.
Yeah.
What's the word?
With
Priorities, yeah.
Yeah. The other hit from the month
Okay.
of June 1990.
1990.
It is Madonna with... Choose a song.
Oh, Madonna in the 1990s.
June 9th, 1990. Hit Madonna song. Number 1 in the charts.
Oh, I can't. My brain's gone. I can't. I'm trying to remember stuff from... Anyway, you have to tell me.
Vogue.
Vogue. Right, okay.
And
Yeah.
I love this. So
we used... Oh, yeah. I remember there was a comedy company sketch about that, and it was just like everyone like dressed like they had like rat's tails and they had mullets and stuff and flannies
Jedi
and they were
rat's
like
tail?
the proper like,
The
the full the Jedi but without like the style, and they'd be like Bogue strike a pose and they're holding a beer and they had singlets and stuff. It was so cool. So we couldn't say Vogue, we had to say Bogue because
Do you remember? I used to listen to so 2XX had the local Canberra radio station 2XX FM. I used to be on there. Actually, I did a show with I was a guest on a show with Tom Gibson and Anthony Tomic.
Oh, there you go.
Called Bright Side in the Mornings.
Right.
98.3, and I did a metal show on there.
Oh, yeah.
As well. And now I still run that metal show, but as a podcast and YouTube channel. People that listen to this podcast already know Canberra Metalheads because it's got a lot of crossover fans. But anyway.
And you had that metal trivia the other day as part of it. Yeah,
that's right, yeah. So, and now apparently I'm known as a trivia host in Canberra because people are recognising that.
Ah. Unpaid, though.
Still more than comedy.
Still way more than comedy.
Still more recognition. And, yeah. So, I was on that show for a little while, and I used to, before that, the predecessor was a metal show called Chromatic Death.
Right.
And on that show, one of the presenters was talking about like the early 2000s, late 90s in Canberra. There was like the metal scene, and they had a term in Canberra, not just Canberra, but something that whenever I mention this, it always takes people back to that time. They had people called booners.
Oh, dude, I was just talking to my daughter literally about booners because she said, what's a booner? And I'm like, oh, okay, you would love it. My daughter would love it because I'm like, okay, so when you're a booner, you wear black jeans, normally acid wash, and normally you have like a bit of a rip in the knee, right?
Yeah.
You have a heavy metal or just a normal metal t-shirt on, Metallica, Gunners, Bon Jovi even, if you like, and you'll have a flanny.
AC/DC.
Always, AC/DC, always have a flanny.
Yeah.
And you'd very often, you'd roll up your Winnie Blues onto up the sleeve, up like this. And you would have shit kickers very often. You'd be wearing like, Dr. Martens or cheaper equivalent because most people are poor. Yeah, and that was a booner. My foster sister, a couple of my foster sisters were booners. And, oh, man, it was so cool. I was like 10 and like they gave me like a booner kit. So I was like this little 10-year-old booner. Like I had like a giant flanny and like weird black jeans, and I didn't have Winnie Blue, but I put like some box under there.
Not the
fads, which weren't called fads back then. They were called fags. And we used to make jokes like, "Hey man, you want a fag?" And you're like,
it was literally fads when I was a kid. But I do remember the must sticks called Big Boss.
Oh yeah, nice.
I'll put a picture up here, but they're a fucking funny looking. They were like pink, but they weren't like normal must sticks. They were just rounded.
They weren't the star-shaped ones.
They weren't ribbed for your pleasure.
Oh, dude, we had the most problematic named product. So we had fags. We also had chocolate biscuits that were called gollywogs, and they they looked racist as shit. And then they went, and then I remember like later on, they were like, oh no, we'll stop calling it gollywogs. That's offensive. We'll call them scallywags. And it was like, it's still the same print. Are you now calling someone who looks like that a scallywag, which is still a derogatory term, and then they got rid of it or something? And so we had fags, we had scallywags, we had Well, but anyway, as a booner, I'd hang out. Like I was tiny, I was so small when I was a kid, so I'd be like this. I was like a mini me, like booner, just walking around, and I never swore either. So everyone would be like, oh yeah, fucking this, fucking that, and I'd just be like, yeah, darn it, or I was like just a low rent tiny booner. Tried so hard to be a booner. Rent. Yeah. My first. I remember one of my first gifts from my foster sister was Motley Crue's Dr. Feelgood LP. Yeah. And it had like a scary skull on the front and stuff. And I was raised very religious. Any heavy metal, even particular pop songs were like evil. So I had this record. I remember my parents looking at it going, oh, that's nice. And I was like, can I keep it? And they're like, well, it's a gift. So I used to listen to that all the time. Motley Crue, absolutely loved them. They were awesome. Yes, that was my first intro to, I guess it's pretty much hair metal, but yeah, still like Slayer was too evil. Yeah. Definitely. It was satanic. And oh my God.
Nathan Boonman.
Yeah, Nathan Boonman, the Boon star, booning it up. But I wish we had booners now, because they're so much better than Eshays, and they're so much better than Bogans, right? Yeah. You don't have to be Povo and just really, you don't have to be a Bogan, and you don't have to be the most hated person in the world in Esha. You don't have to be either of those. Yeah. You just get to be Booner, and it's really easy. You just get a t-shirt, jeans, and a flanny, and you're
good to go. Basically,
beat people up at Belcon and Interchange, and you're a Booner.
My go-to outfit is the Booner. Pretty
exactly.
Much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Only thing is, I respect my shit too much to have rips in it. Like I would buy shit with rips in it. But I don't fucking have anything that I've worn to
I'll
the
buy
point.
shit with rips in it. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I just don't have anything to the point where it has rips in it from me wearing it too much.
Yeah. We also had skegs, which were skaters, but we called them skegs. I was sort of a half a skeg as well. Used to go down the Canberra Bowl and the Charney Bowl and do a bit of stuff. But yeah, we had booners and skegs. They were like Yeah. So the booners used to listen to the metal back in the 90s. Yeah. But they also, I don't know, they listened to, I don't know what you'd call metal back in the 90s. I guess Anthrax was one of them.
Korn and Limp Bizkit and shit is what I think in the 90s.
Oh, Korn was like later though, like 1996 and stuff like that. Yeah, I was thinking like, the earlier, like Whitesnake and stuff. Def Leppard. No, they're not metal, but... Yeah. I think Anthrax and Slayer and those ones, they were in the early 90s, in the 1990 time.
At the gates and shit. It's like more heavy, but
or Lamb of God or whatever. Those guys, they were
That's cool stuff. Like I think I love how Limp Bizkit's leaned into their like demographic. They released their last album with the song Dad Metal, because that's literally what it is. It's dad metal. Like, dude, I can tell you for a fact, all right? I am into shit that if I was born fucking like 10 years prior, just because of what my tastes are. Like, I just think that I get into stuff that's like, maybe because a lot of... So, I had my old man on previous episode, if listeners to this show remember. So he had me a bit later on. Like, he was probably like, he was 35, I think, when I was born. So it meant that all of his mates had already had kids. Yeah. So a lot of my friends were 10 years older than me. Like, people that people I grew up with, my influences and shit, weren't really my age. Right. And it seems like I got influenced by shit that was like 10 years ahead, like behind the times. Yeah. Like, I remember in like 2000... in the year like 2002 or something, I got a bunch of hand-me-down clothes from one of my mum's friends' kids who was just moving out of home. And dude, it's like 2002, and I'm tearing around in a fucking like XL Jurassic Park shirt.
Oh yeah, nice.
And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
this thing is fucking... I'm swimming in this. But it was like one of my favorite shirts. And it was just into stuff from the 90s.
Yeah.
I like... Although I was born in 93. But I like shit from... Like... I watched cartoon... When I was a kid, I watched cartoons from, like, the 80s.
Yeah.
Like, because that's, like, what was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've got 2 kids, and by the time this comes out, my
Yeah, I've seen
second
the
one
shirt,
will be
don't
21. My second one will be 21.
Yeah, cool.
And ever since, like, while I was raising them, I was forcing them into experiencing all of the best things I could think of from the 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s. So
That's cool, though.
Yeah, so they've watched the Goonies. Like they'll go to school, and the teacher will mention something from the 80s or 90s, and they go, "Oh yeah, we know about that." And they're like, "No, you don't," or whatever. It'd be like a reference to the Goonies, or all the Karate Kids, every Star Wars. I nerded them up so hard.
Cool.
I just gave them everything from the 80s and 90s. And if we do an 80s or a 90s trivia game for music or for anything, for pop culture, they're like pros. So not that I'm saying the 2000 and the later 2000s aren't great, because they've also got that knowledge. But no, I think there was some really good stuff that went on, especially around the 90s. That was, that'd be, everyone should know.
I heard an interesting point once, and I have yet to find someone that disproves this. You know how they say, like, oh, that's like dad genes, or that's like, dad metal or whatever?
Yeah.
So someone made the point that most dads stop developing taste for new stuff the year their first kid was born.
Oh, okay. Because then they just go straight to the Wiggles. Like as soon as the child gets born, you're just like, okay, everything up until that point is all I'm going to remember, because I'm about to blast for the next 2 years the Wiggles, Peppa Pig, whatever is like current. And you don't get to watch it once. You watch it like 1,000 times, and it's just in your brain, and it probably pushes out anything that's happening during the rest of the time.
What's that? Is it Mr. Deeds where Adam Sandler has to go back to school?
No, I think that's Happy Gilmore, where he has to go back to school.
Is it?
Yeah. He goes back to school. I haven't seen Mr. Deeds, and but Happy Gilmore's where he goes back to school.
Yeah, right. So, there's a scene from
Billy Madison. Sorry, not Happy Gilmore. Billy Madison.
Billy
Madison. Sorry, Happy Gilmore.
Yeah,
the
okay.
golf
Mr.
one.
Deeds was Mr. Deeds was the stepdad one, was it, or no?
I haven't seen it.
Anyway, whatever.
But
Whatever. There's a scene that people use for memes that's Adam Sandler sitting in the classroom, fully like attentive to the story the teacher's telling while all the other kids are asleep.
Yeah.
And someone I'd seen that in a meme form where someone had put like when you're like 3 seasons into Bluey, once all your kids are asleep, you're like catching up on like the plot holes and twists. Yeah, well, I mean that's what it's so amazing, because my kids like were raised on all those different shows, like say, I don't know, Dora the Explorer and the Wiggles, and it's almost like it was a TV series. And I've just come back to it, and I'm like, where the hell's Boots? What happened to Boots? Did they kill Boots? Now it's just some dog? Like, did Swiper finally, like, I don't know, do something other than swiping? I don't know what the hell happened. And I was like, I finally come back to the Wiggles, and I'm like, I got no idea what happened. Where is everybody's gone? I know maybe Greg had some heart attack or something. I heard that, but like, I don't know, did it happen in the show and they just wrote him out or what? I don't know. It was just hilarious. Whenever I go back, that's right. Jeff never woke up. They're like, "Wake up, Jeff," and he just never wakes up. I don't know. It's like you come back to a show that you haven't watched for like 8 years or 15 years, and you're like, where is everyone? Like,
Thing is still there.
Yeah,
that's
mine
right.
was Fireman Sam. When I was a kid, I used to like that shit. And I love how 90s cartoons always had some character which is just like, I fucking hate that.
Yeah. Oh, fucking. So who's the guy in Fireman Sam? Who's
Norman Price.
Norman Price.
The little shit kid.
Yeah, he's just a little shit
and his
kid.
mum owns the corner shop. No discipline. Just lets this fucking kid get away with a murder. And the best she can do to disciplining her kid is, letting him do the wrong thing, and then fucking yelling at him. He's not going to fucking learn if you do that.
That sounds like that's the way we all raise our children, isn't it?
In the
I don't
90s
know.
it was.
Oh my God. I used to watch, I watch so many shows where people's kid just gets away with murder, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, I'm just yelling at the TV.
Yeah,
someone slap that kid. Like, actually, no, you just, I'm fine. You can just die. Like, you just did the thing. I'm not going to rescue you. Have fun being dead. Like, I was watching that.
And Sam can't save you
Exactly. Tess, you and me just going to drive away while the little kid bloody hangs out at the construction site.
Yep.
Have fun. You'll learn a lesson about losing limbs or something.
I have to rewatch a lot. The other one was Okie Doke. It was so weird, dude. It was like this leaf looking dude. Like
Right.
He was like made out of fucking like oak tree bits.
Oh, okay. Okie,
and he lived
right,
in
yeah.
a fucking oak tree, and whenever you had trouble, you just had to go knock on his door, and he would come out and fucking fix it. He was like a hitman for the bush people.
He just... One day I'm asking for a favor. I will come and I will help your daughter, but I may ask some of you one day.
I need you to rub my oak nuts. That's right. You have to go rub.
Just Okie Doke. You're just lying asleep and Okie Doke's just like hanging over you, breathing and just going, it's time for my favor.
I will help you. I will help you defend against the humans if you let me teabag you. Okie Doke, what a fucking unit.
If you have a problem and you need a helping hand, cross the dell and ring the bell, he'll understand. Don't worry, 'cause here comes Okie Doke. The friendliest of folk is Mr. Okie Doke. Okie doke, a helpful handy man. Get ready for good old Mr. Okie doke.
Hey, you just came back from the break. Now, I normally have a break tune, but in the break in that one, I think I might choose one of those 90s cartoon ones. So you probably just heard something from Fireman Sam or Okie Doke.
Can you just do like like magic and mystery, a part of their history, along with the secret of gummy berry juice? Oh man, I love gummy bears so much. They were huge back then, man.
Okay.
Yeah. Come on.
I wish I could take that out.
I just want to say, my brain is so full of 90s cartoon themes. It's unstoppable. You could pick one and I'd go, oh yeah, it goes like this. Probably, yeah.
Yeah, well, the I don't know the actual lyrics. I just know the tune of the Okie Doke one.
I never knew Okie
but
Dokes,
it plays in my head regularly. And the other one was the Postman Pat. In
Yeah.
the morning, when I'm getting ready, I find myself humming.
Early in the morning, day is dawning. Pat feels he's a really happy man.
And then there was the spin-off.
Fireman Sam? No, not Fireman Sam. Postman
the
Pat.
spin-off on the intro
Oh,
was
right.
where they were talking about, it's like Postman Pat ran over his cat, blood and guts was flying, Pat was nearly crying, Pat will never drink drive again. There we go.
That's what you used to sing when you were...
That was my version of
when you were
AIDS.
present. Get AIDS from you. Yeah, nice.
Now, dude, during the break, we're chatting a bit more about different religions and being brought up religious, because you mentioned that previously in the episode. Now, I was raised Catholic, not strictly, but I still went to a Catholic school. Going to church was part of our regular school routine.
Yeah.
So in the mornings, we'd have to go to assembly, read a poem. I said poem because that's kind of what
Just read a poem.
No, it was
a haiku. A Christian haiku.
I just memorized one. I memorized one. So whenever I got called up
to do a poem,
to say a prayer,
I
would just say this one thing.
Oh, this one thing.
I still remember it to this day. I see the moon and the moon sees me. God love the moon and God bless me.
Yeah.
And fucking, oh no, it's
God
less
bless the moon.
moon.
Yeah, God bless the moon. God
And
bless
that's
the moon. Yeah,
all I fucking had to do.
That was
And
all
they
you
would be
had to
like,
do.
excellent, great, yeah. But that's
It had
about
God in it.
Yeah. Dude, I love the bit about God.
Yeah, I love that
fucking
bit.
good.
That was good. That third line. Mwah.
And I also went to church for part of like if we had like an Easter thing, we'd do a school mass, all that sort of shit.
Yeah.
Now, so that was like me I was sort of just, but I honestly, in the town I was from, small country town, there was two options, public or Catholic.
Yeah, which is public Catholic anyway, or was it actually like semi-private?
No, the public was just not religious related at all.
Right, okay.
But the private school was.
Yeah, okay.
So it was like, do you want to have a good education and also have to learn about God, or do you just want a shit education, get bullied, and not get anything?
Yeah, that's right.
I started at the public school.
Yeah.
Got bullied, got fucking shit education, and Dad went, how do you feel about religion, mate?
Wow.
Because it's better than getting beaten up for your lunch money.
Oh my
and
God.
to be fair, my experience, it was better, but for some people it was a bit shit.
Yeah.
Now, that was my experience. Now, what was yours like coming up Catholic?
Okay.
So I believe was a bit more
I didn't come up Catholic. So all right. So from the age that I was cognizant and understood what the hell was going on, I was a Christian.
Yep.
I believed like very heavily in God, the Holy Spirit, Jesus Christ. I repented. It's so funny. In order to become a Christian, you have to like say how sorry you are for all the sins you've committed. I was fucking 4, but I was like, oh yeah, and I was listing off all this stuff.
You're like Butters.
I ate a
I've just been a
cookie.
bad guy.
Exactly. I just in general, I really So I had all this like until I was a Christian though, man. The shit that I used to do when I was 4. God damn, I was crazy.
Wow.
No, anyway, so I wanted to become a Christian ever since I was 4, and we were in, I'd call it a Pentecostal church. So we were in a happy clappy kind of church. There's always singing, there's always clapping and Jesus and all that sort of thing. So that's from like a very, very, very early age. We always went to church every single every week and all of that sort of thing. We went to Sunday school and all of that. I even tried to like convert some of my friends that I knew and try and get them to come to church and be Christian as well.
Yeah.
I was like, I was an evangelical tiny child.
Wow.
And then what was that?
Wild.
Yeah, I was crazy.
you
I was
had a
like
few frequent
pushing people
flyers.
over on stage. No,
You're like,
I was
come
like,
on, I need 4 more members to get gold status.
exactly. Yeah. I get the good seat.
Yeah. I get the padding.
Yeah, that's right. And so, but around that same time, my parents decided to join a group in the Blue Mountains that we used to go to, where we'd go there every week, and there was a point where they all sort of went and visited Dad. And they said, "Look, thanks a lot for coming to our group." And they had a leader guy, and the leader came with all of his friends and stuff. And they said, thanks a lot for coming to our group. We want you to now sell everything you own. Sell the house, sell all the kids' shit, sell the tables, sell everything, and move into our commune." And
this was in the Blue Mountains.
This is back in the Blue Mountains, yeah. Back in would have been like very later 80s or early 80s, and Dad said, amazingly enough, he said no. And they said, well, you can't be part of our cult group. We can't be part of our cult anymore. And they kicked us out, and we just weren't allowed to go to their cult anymore. And it was so funny because recently I wrote a joke about it because I was just remembering, oh, that's right, we were in a cult. And
you blanked it out?
Yeah, it was just like it just flows into this because I don't think you get the religiosity, the beliefs that I've had. And anyone who's been a happy, clappy Christian, man, the stuff that I can talk about demons and angels and casting out demons and miraculous healing and talking in tongues, all that stuff. I just said a bunch of random stuff, but that was just my life from born to quite recently.
Yeah.
And so the cult thing was just like, I was, okay, they were a bit pushy, or they all wanted to live in one place and have different rules than the other religions.
It's bad when heavily religious people are just like, you guys are fucking weird.
Exactly. When you get kicked out because you're not weirdly Christian enough. That was a thing, man. What the hell? Yeah, so they booed us out, and then we never went. The other day, I did a set about how I used to be in a cult, and my mum came. It was the first time my mum has ever come to one of my shows.
Yeah, where was that?
It was open mic. Sorry, it was at Armadillo, which is awesome because Armadillo is totally clean comedy, right? And hopefully they're going to come back in spring next year. But yeah, it's totally clean comedy, so I could invite my family who are still extremely religious, so I didn't want them to see me doing porn jokes or whatever. So yeah, so I did a joke about being in a cult, and I expected my mum just to go, Nathan, that's not what happened. But after the thing, she said, that's exactly what happened. They were a cult. We were in a cult. So I was like, well, that definitely confirms it then, that they booted us out of their cult. Yeah.
Cool. That's I've done Armadillo too. I think every time it's ran, I've done it pretty much. Maybe I missed one.
Yeah.
But the best thing about it is it trains me to actually work clean.
Yeah. But also, it's daylight. It's 2 PM on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And there's no darkness. There's no roof. There's nothing. It's just
you and a mic.
And some people eating like lunch and and a mic. Yeah. So it's like Shit Scared Sundays or something.
Sound.
It should be called.
I have to give Stell a fucking props on the sound. It sounds good for an outdoor space.
It's so good the way. Yeah, Stell's done an amazing job. Shout out to Stell.
Yeah, shout out.
Stell Muses, who runs it. Unfortunately, we had to turn it off because it's getting too cold. So, but when it gets warmer, we'll come back and we'll do some more clean comedy.
Yeah.
Yay.
It actually was good. I think it's given me something to add to my tool bag.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you want to do a set for a corporate thing, you probably have to keep it
relatively clean. I've done one
clean.
corporate, and I was lucky that I had a little bit of help when it comes.
Before you did it, you said do your set, and then they went, you can't do that one. Do that one, or
no? One of the local more senior comedians helped me out because it was my first corporate, and that definitely doesn't go unnoticed, because without that, I think I would have went up there and talked about porn and fucking random shit.
That's my good stuff.
But however, I was lucky that they weren't a very uptight corporate sort of thing. Like, they were like cool. But I'm glad I had a little bit of warning. Yeah,
definitely. It was a bit of a struggle for me too. I remember the first time I started doing comedy, I only had like 3 minutes of clean material. My mum was like, I haven't seen your comedy, and I'd recorded it and I had it up on YouTube, and so I decided to edit it and only give her the first 3 minutes of the set, because after that it just goes straight to strip clubs and porn. And so I cut all of that and I sent her the video. It was called For Mum. The other day, that was back in 2013. The other day, I went into my YouTube again and was just having a look at some of my videos. And I looked at the For Mum one. It was 6.5 minutes long, which means that she did watch the entire set, including the strip clubs and the porn and everything.
Yeah.
And I remember her reaction when I said, how was it? Like back in 2013, she said, no, that was pretty good. It was all right. But now I've realized that she's seen like my really, really dirty stuff as well.
Fuck yeah, that's good, man.
Yeah.
No, it sounds good, man. And also, thank you very much. So Nathan actually came to Jeremy Smith and my Canberra Comedy Festival show.
Yeah, the Courtyard Studio.
He brought over the physical ticket for my collection, because I didn't actually buy a physical ticket to my own show. So I really appreciate that, dude. That's going to go straight to the pool room. So
yeah, awesome.
Appreciate having that, and because everyone knows I like putting up pictures of myself as much as possible.
Yeah.
To the point of comic, like, it's comic how much.
Like, how many do you have? Like, not just in this room, but just like in the house in general.
So I've got, I have 3 more throughout the rest of the house scattered. One of them is a hand-done drawing above the bed.
Of yourself. I've got Harley Quinn watching over us with her bat, but you've just got your "In Mark We Trust" just sitting there. You just go, to myself.
I'm my own cult, and I'm the only person in it.
Yeah, that sounds like a good cult.
That's how I treat myself.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm the leader.
You always do what you tell yourself to do, so that's great.
Yep. And But hey, that's how I fucking get through it. But yeah, thanks for being on the show, dude.
Yeah,
I
thanks a lot
appreciate
for having
you coming
me.
over. This was a really good episode. I hope everyone enjoyed listening, and make sure you rate the podcast. Now, check out any gigs that are coming up with open mics and shit around town. You're normally at them. Do you have any socials you want to shout out?
I've just got Nathan. Nathor777 or Nathan Hillman on YouTube if you want to check that out. I haven't really been putting much of my stuff. I used to have all my stuff up there and I took it all down because I haven't done any like specials or anything with any of that material. But sure. But yeah, you could see some of my stuff up there if you want.
Cool.
Yeah,
well, if you're watching on YouTube, that will be one of the tiles in there.
Okay, cool.
To take you straight over to his channel. Thanks for being on the show, and thanks everyone for listening.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot.
Don't buy me a drink. Just name names. Yeah, right. Big Tony. You'll get fucking thrown out of the strip club with your floppy disk.
All day.
Make people feel shame for shit all day.
Don't blow
Turn
it.
it into a hard drive. Yeah, right. You'll get fucking... We're here
Keep it simple. Count your money.
that they're not proud of. Just give me $10.
All right.
Click.
Did you hang up?
No, I just said click.